This is where the fun begins.
It is settled then. My wealth will fund the rebellion while Garm provides our fleet and Mon Mothma our soldiers.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Are you sure? So be it.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CAF Chat. This is your host, OG Star Wars, and welcome to the channel OG Star Wars. I'm so happy to once again be here with you live for our weekly CAF Chat, going over real Star Wars, George Lucas era, keeping it front and center for all to see what is truly Star Wars. Now, sorry that this has been started, or we're starting. Geez, I can't even English today. Starting a half an hour later. This is only due to the fact that I submitted some art pieces. Well, I proposed for a couple of my art pieces to be in an art show, and they got accepted. And so today was the drop-off date between 9. Well, it's supposed to be 8:30 to 10, but now it's only an hour between 9 to 10. And so I had to shift everything around because I didn't want to cancel this time with you guys, especially with Andor going on and all this bullshit stuff that's been happening and we've been seeing. We need to keep this front and center, the real lore, the true lore, the canon, George Lucas era. So thank you guys for jumping in and hanging out and waiting for the show to start. Yes, thank you. And by the way, what is in your mug? What are you enjoying today? Of course, I have my CAF Chat. Not my CAF Chat. Geez, my CAF. I told you I can't English today. It's been like I've been on the go all morning getting shit done and stuff. So now's my time to really just sit down before I have to get back on the computer to make some new more graphics and stuff. But to sit down and talk Star Wars with you. Yes. And I seen today that it was announced on Twitter that it is the anniversary to the Heir to the Empire. And I'm looking up the dates, and there are so many conflicting dates. Heir to the Empire has June to 1991 and 1992 for the hardcover and paperback. And it doesn't say May. However, I'm looking at one of the Lucasfilm source books here by is the Essential Reader's Companion, but there's other sources like Wiki that has May. So we are either in the anniversary for Heir to the Empire, just the single book, not the trilogy, or we're coming upon it. So I just wanted to take note and homage to this novel here, to this novel that opened Lucasfilm's eyes more than what they were seeing, how the fans were responding to the lore. So this really was the pivotal point for them to realize that what we are doing with the continuity and keeping track of it, with the lore, the continuity, the stories aligning, keeping track of these characters and places and vehicles, all of that is paying off. And I am one of them that has the hot take that I think that the trilogy is overrated. I commend it for what it did for the overall lore and how it focused Lucasfilm and George too, because he did invite Timothy Zahn to Skywalker Ranch to celebrate the success of the novel, right? So with that being said, so either we are at the anniversary right now or we are coming upon it, but I just wanted to pay homage to that real quick. So what are your favorite moments in Heir to the Empire? Just the single novel. We're not talking about the trilogy, just the single novel. Have you read it? And what did you like about it? Like, what are the pivotal, scenes that really stood out for you? So let's share real quick. Let's see here. Thank you. Let me go ahead and start saying hi. But like I said, I wanna know, what are your favorite moments, or what is that pivotal moment, the favorite moment of Heir to the Empire, the single novel, not the trilogy. So I'm not talking about Dark Force Rising or Last Command. I'm just asking about the single novel. All right. So let's say hello as I leave you guys to answer that question. They're desperate to a point where they're restoring to a canceled video game as blueprint for the new show. I think you're talking about Andor, maybe. I don't know. Force choke the like button. Thank you so much, Jordan Star Wars, for jumping in, waiting for the show to start. I appreciate you. And share this room to all social media platforms. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Yep. So I'm happy I made it in time and had time to sit down and just really get things focused and ready to go. Had extra time to just really sink into the seat here and get going for you guys. Let's see here. Conrado, always great to see you from the Philippines. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Anakin Batsy, hey, what's up? How are you doing? And the backseater, OG, did you hear that Jar Jar Jarkins dropped the next part of his terrible Heir to the Empire adaptation? Are you going to cover it some more? You know what? I should. I should cover it. I wanted to. I planned on doing that because, mind you, I don't care. I don't mind we have fan versions of these favorite novels, right? The thing is, don't change shit because you think that that person or whatever event should belong there. Stay as much as you can. Considering it's a book, stay as much as you can to the lore, to the characters and stuff, because it no longer becomes that piece that you're recreating. You might as well do your own fucking lore. All right, so here we go. And I did piss him off. For the review and stuff. And I will do a review again. Thank you so much for letting me know. Let's see here. This proper sequel trilogy better follow George's script. Why did they recast Bail Organa with a new actor? Their excuse was that he was not available. That's plain and simple. Good day, everyone. Force choke that like button. And thank you, Lucas Gerson. And I posted this here. I'm gonna, if anybody wants to start using StreamYard or whatever, you can get a $10 discount from me. I thought it was 10% discount. It's $10. Let's see here. Who else is coming in that I didn't say hello to? Scran, what's up? Hello, everyone. Hi, OG. Hey, so he has some new videos out. And if you didn't catch his last live, go ahead and check it out when you have the chance. And subscribe as well. All right, let me see. So I'm going to scroll down. Double A, I see you. What's up? Luke Skywalker, I see you. What's up? And thank you, Soul Assassin. And let's go here and scroll down. I want to see what you guys are saying too, or regarding Darth Pauses here. Heir to the Empire is extremely overrated. The book itself is good, but the writing is dated and it's just not as good as Dark Force Rising and The Last Command. Interesting. You know, I like the Hand of Thrawn duology more than the Thrawn trilogy. Let's see here. I don't like reading it, so my basis off understanding the story was through the comic adaptation. You can even listen to it because they are unabridged. At least the first one is. All right, my favorite moment is when Luke gets stranded in space while and is trying to repair his X-wing. Oh yeah. Let's see here. My favorite moment for Heir to the Empire would be the conversation Luke and Mara had in the forest. That's not in Heir to the Empire. Oh wait, am I lying? Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Like, wait, am I lying? Yes, I am. I'm lying. Like, it's so crazy because you blur all three of the books together. But yes, that's when they were on Merkur. That's right. Yeah, and they have yeah, they're back and forth. It's fun. And she has so much like rage, hurts. There's a lot going on in her. So when people said, "Oh, she's just this crazy bitch, this blah blah blah, this Karen or whatever," I've seen so many people call her Mary Sue, criticize her attitude, not realizing that there is a reason why she has this attitude. Mind you, because I said it was underrated doesn't mean that I don't like it. And I don't respect what had came of it for the EU regarding that. But with her character arc in this trilogy, you see her from this hardened person, I'll just say person, who has a lot of loss and a lot of blame and hate, that she does have this attitude towards Luke. And it's rightful. Well, to her, it's rightfully so. And once you get through the whole trilogy, you see her start realizing stuff and softening down, and her character softens a lot. She's still a badass. She still has her snarky, sarcastic personality. That's what makes her her. When you read through the New Jedi Order, it's still there. And there's instances where she's so pissed off that Luke is like wincing because he's like, shit, that's the woman. That's the attitude of the woman that tried to kill me, kind of thing. So it's referencing her attitude. Basically, that's who she is. She's very intelligent. She's very smart. She's very sarcastic. She can hold her own. Let's see here. Probably Thrawn's intro, since Thrawn is one of my favorite characters and it sets him up as a much different villain than Vader, Tarkin, and Palpatine. Yes, but he still has the same focus as Palpatine. People don't realize that. He wants to basically rule the galaxy, but in his own way, but he has the same focus as Palpatine. And it's just how he goes about it is different. That's the only difference. And maybe he even clones himself. So there you go. He even clones himself so that he can still defeat the New Republic and bring the Empire back into the rule of the galaxy. So, all right, see you later. Hate Keepers Alliance Unite. Woo! There we go. And so channel member. Hello, Melissa Lord. So let me know if you missed it. Let me know what's your favorite moment in Heir to the Empire, just the novel, not the trilogy. It's reported today on social media that it is its anniversary, but like looking at my Reader's Companion here and other sources, June is the release date. But so either we're celebrating its release date today or it's coming up. But I just thought I'd bring this into light and see what your favorite moments are in that book. And yes, become a channel member and you have these beautiful emojis that you can use. There's Cadis, Jaina, Revan, Darth Talon, Cap Chat, Elitist, and a few more there. The more we get, the more I can build on. So become a channel member. We just finished up the last of the Dark Forces novella trilogy with Jedi Knight. And that was so fun. I highly recommend that you do that, not only to support the channel, but just to have a chance to sit in community and, have these watch parties and talk and discuss about the lore with each other while we're listening or watch our listen parties. And I'm trying to figure out if we should dive in, and this will take a whole friggin' rest of the year, probably, but do a listen party through the Young Jedi Knights. Now, each book is around 4 hours, so splitting it up, the one novel up like for a month or so, and I'll figure this out. So you guys let me know and become a channel member. Let's see here. All right, we have Mike Casillas here and Mr. Dystopian. How are you doing? They just didn't want to pay him. Yeah, well, you never know. Or he might be like, you know what, I'm done with Star Wars. And rightfully, I don't blame him whatsoever if Smith, basically was like, I'm done. I might need to check it out of morbid curiosity. I don't know what that is. I'm thinking maybe Andor. I don't know. Thrawn, who are you? Bootleg Mace. I am Mace Windu. Or you guys might be talking about that fan thing. Yeah. Let's see here. And Gibbet is here. OG, are you going to reread Darth Maul Shadowhunter after announcement of the Darth Maul show? We are, I've reread that a few times already, but right now, I am covering the New Jedi Order. We built this little renaissance of the New Jedi Order across like the platforms here on YouTube and on social media like Twitter that I am still pushing towards Star by Star. And I want to stay a bit focused on that. I do sometimes listen to audibles, not necessarily Star Wars ones. So, but if or when that show comes out, I think we'll still be the New Jedi Order lore talk, more than likely. I might pause it to go over, Maul lore, or maybe even Legacy. We'll see. So stay tuned for that. Right now, I'm going to pause this for next week. So next Thursday, I think we will get into Skyhook, Operation Skyhook, and the Death Star lore. So we'll get into that since that's closing out of Andor and it's supposed to lead into Rogue One. So might as well switch gears again and share the true lore about the Death Star and Skyhook, Operation Skyhook and all that. Let's see here. Is it Mace Windu? Yes, it is. That Jar Jar Jargons changes Sabayoth to Mace Windu. Isn't that fucking crazy? All right. When you encounter people like the DA that like all the Thrawn stuff, expose them by asking how much they like Thrawn in the Hand of Thrawn duology. Boom. Yes, because that will get them, because I know. I love how you're laughing at the bottom here. I hate when the chat freezes when I can't scroll through it. Okay, so Double A says, my personal favorite EU Empire content books are Choices of One and New Rebellion and Kenobi. Very interesting. So very, very interesting. All right. And Star Wars is back, says Eric Foss. Get in the fucking bin, Eric Foss, you gay man. Oh, this fake Mara is just recolored Botan. Let's see here. And all right. So I just thought I'd get the conversation about Heir to the Empire, because like I said, it was announced and I didn't reshare it. Holocron, that Count Holocron is the one that shared it. And I'm always looking at dates whenever a novel is said to be its anniversary, because Wookiee gets shit wrong. I know. And then I've also noticed that this Essential Reader's Guide gets some of the publishing dates wrong as well. So it's always good to cross-reference and see which, and even look at your book. And I didn't grab the book. It's still in my bookshelf. So with that being said, I just wanted to bring this conversation up. It is either or coming up on the anniversary here soon. All right, let's see. Gibbet says, I used to like, I hate when that happens. I used to like Maul coming back from the dead, but now after he's been overused in Star Wars media, I wish he stayed dead the first place. I never liked it. And yeah. Lucas says, I love a woman who can beat my ass. Hey, but I mean, seriously, okay, so most of you guys, like most of the people in the chat are guys here. Who wouldn't like Mara? Honestly, you know, what they say, gingers are fun. I wouldn't know, but that's the rumor I heard. Let's see here. I just wanted to say, love your work pointing out gay couples in the EU on Twitter yesterday. You know what? That's, you know, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will brush upon it because I already ranted about this last Thursday, and it applies to the lesbian couples. Mind you, I don't give a shit if two women kiss. I don't give a fucking shit about that. You know, it's a nothing burger again. But when you go and accuse of Disney Star Wars of doing something you don't like or don't think it fits, or it's going into this woke angle, know your fucking lore pre-Disney. And I'm not saying that, I'm not like saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying when you accuse something and say specific things like it was never been in Star Wars before, do your fucking research, find out, because you never know when you're going to have an intelligent shill, and intelligent and shill, does that really go together? But anyways, you never know when you have a shill who knows their shit or has researched it and will throw that back at you. And then you're going to fucking look stupid, right? Mind you, again, I'm not saying that it should, because it existed before, that it makes it good or bad. You just need to know your lore and have a smart counter. And then with that being said, you can go back and say, yes, it was. And it was done organically. And you could present a stronger point with that. Instead of just having a rage bait reason to make a fucking video and complain about shit. And there is also more stuff going on within the lore and the context of this show that needs to be talked about. Instead of crying about two women kissing. Okay, well, anyways. Okay, so I thought I'd just throw that out there. Know your lore, prepare your counter so that you don't get a bunch of people coming back at you saying, hey, well, it happened before. Be intelligent about your remarks. Okay, anyways. Do you like my Mara accent on my comic screen? I had to read that. I personally like the last command in the Thrawn trilogy. Cool. All right. The DFR is my favorite of the three. The middle one. I wonder how fake news Kyle Katarn blocked, I wonder how fake news Kyle Katarn blocked this year. But how many? All right, let's see here. So was the trilogy ever officially called Heir to the Empire Trilogy? It was called Empire Trilogy in the beginning, Empire Trilogy. Then it got changed to Thrawn Trilogy. So that's kind of the evolution. And some people say Heir to the Empire Trilogy as well, because that's the first book. So, but in the beginning, it was Empire Trilogy. Then it turned into Thrawn Trilogy, because I think it's weird to call the name of the trilogy based on the first book. I agree. Let's see here. That's like calling the Dark Lord trilogy the Labyrinth of Evil trilogy. Yeah. Hello, I'm back. Why, hello. Let's see here. All right, so let's get into Lucas facts. It feels weird that I started a half an hour later, and it's like, damn, an hour already went by. I'm like, no, I only started 30 minutes ago. But when the show happens for the art show, going to that, switching gears a little tiny bit, I will share, if you follow me on Twitter, I will share some images and stuff like that from the show. And it's next Thursday. So I'm excited. So let's see here. Soul Assassin will be excited. We will be starting a deep dive into the Old Republic on Monday. Woo! That's his comfort zone right there. And that is his comfort zone right there. Like whenever I'm like have a question about something, because like that's my weak area, because I never played the games. I only read and stuff like that. And I haven't fully got into all the comics with that era. I always ask him, like, oh, what about this, or blah, 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 and have a conversation about that. So yes. And Scran should be finishing up Shatterpoint, which I've been enjoying listening to. Even if I don't discuss it in the chat, I still enjoy listening to him read and go over the lore and go over the events and stuff like that. So good to just sit back and have a conversation in the chat and listen to the story as well. So thank you, Scran, for taking that time and doing these like chapter readings and sharing these the EU with everybody. Mr. Dystopian says, Dave Filoni ripped off old Wounds comics. He has no original ideas. Otherwise they're shit. That's nothing new with him, right? That is nothing new with him. And so I mean, it's another day, another dollar kind of deal. Like it's same old, same old. Same old. Mara probably had those crazy eyes, her crazy green eyes. Crazy green eyes. OG Unleashed. Slept in, getting coffee. Awesome, Silver Ogre. I don't know why I keep on saying org. You're not a fucking org. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Let's see here. Richards is here. I wonder how many people that fake news Kyle Katarn has blocked. I was one of his first. Okay, so history. Here is a lore of OG Star Wars. Of course, you guys might know a lot, or know at least that I am the boogeyman and that I get blocked on a regular basis because of my opinion and my stance with Star Wars and Lucas era being the canon and all, which it is. And me countering with compare and contrast. You guys probably know a bit of that lore. But when I first started the channel, or switched my channel to be George Lucas era focused, I just used to be dance, my native dance and all that. I don't remember the exact conversation. It could have been about Luke Skywalker, which almost likely it has been. And I countered, and he fucking blocked me right away. Pussy ass. Yeah, so he blocked me right away. It's like he can't take criticism. And back then I didn't know much about like how these people were being huge shills, and Disney has been catering to their rhetoric. The more you shield, the bigger the package, right? Yeah, so he couldn't, he can't talk about Disney Star Wars in any negative way. So when I'm countering him, oh boy, am I messing with his dollar, right? With all his perks. Mara, Colleen, Blue sent us a lot of awesome ladies in the EU. I agree. All of the rage baiters would have been praising it if our honorary Zeltron Sydney Sweeney and Elizabeth Hurley were the lesbians. Oh, that's hilarious. I wish I had that to play. I wish I did. Don't expect Anna to make a coherent argument. It's just weird to me. With someone with the Star Wars as your title, that you would at least know your lore before you make a complaint and make a solid statement about that on why you are upset. But then again, I don't know. It's all about just the content and getting people's attention, I guess you could say. I don't know. It's fucking crazy. It is fucking crazy. Me, I stay consistent on my stance. I've always have. And we are now pushing to 3,100, which within this last 48 hours, subs have been climbing. So thank you guys for subbing and continuing to support the channel. It's been amazing, but my stance has been relatively the same since I began my channel as a Star Wars channel. And even in the past, when we were like, when things were happening, when Rey got her yellow lightsaber and other things were brought in where people are like, ew, that's never been in Star Wars. I'm like, yes, it has been in Star Wars. It's been a part of the lore. You know, so it's like you need, like, again, build a solid stance, stick with it, do your research to make a coherent, strong counter. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you should like what is being presented in Disney Star Wars, which is a name only. So I asked this question to everybody who are upset about recent things in Andor. If you don't like Andor and you don't think Disney Star Wars is Star Wars, what are you fucking upset about then? Why are you saying it's never been in Star Wars? You are admitting that Andor is Star Wars then, right? And so why are you upset about that when you really don't want Disney Star Wars? I mean, these are just questions that make people think, but people want to react. People are so emotional reactors. They don't think coherently anymore. And that's what is so fucking frustrating right now. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Let's talk about the lore and let's get through this chat and so we can get to the Lucas Facts and Book of the Week. I think you guys are going to like them. Let's see here. Mara has that red Highlander hair. Look at that in his eyes. He's like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Follow me on Twitter. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and get into, I know I'm stirring a lot of thought in here and you guys are talking about it, but I was trying to avoid these topics in a sense, but I knew they would come up. So I'm like, okay, if they come up, I need to be to the point and concise on my stance with this. Yeah. So do your research before you make a counter so that you have a solid foundation to fall upon. Simple. Easy. Not saying you should or should not like what they're doing, just saying prepare your counter more coherently. And there we go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and cleanse our palate with this.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the expanded universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The expanded universe respects the reader. In the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the expanded universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the expanded universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still The best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
All right. So there we go. Make sure that, can you hear me? I'm always cautious on if you can hear me when I use these screen presentation things. Laugh my ass off, OG Star Wars. That's a good clip. Thank you. I am so proud of myself for that. Hopefully you can hear me. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's see here. Let me put my, here we go. Yeah, there. All right. So with that being said, what's so great about the EU is that not only do we get awesome stories, movies too, because Star Wars, the saga includes the movies, includes the novels, includes the storylines of the games, the comics, all of that. But we also have these essential guides, these source books that gives us a glimpse in how much attention Lucasfilm has put into creating this universe. And it's fucking amazing, right? It is amazing. So when Matt Wilkins did that video clip that we just watched, right, he's just talking in general, the lore and how Lucasfilm basically, dedicated their attention to bring these stories to the fans. But look at what else they did here. They created these source books to give us a glimpse into even the weapons and technology, which this is the CAF Chat book of the week, this source book. The author is Bill Smith, and there's a few of them. They evolved over the years because as it started expanding more and more, the lore kept on growing. They had to keep growing these source books. So this is one of the first. I'd say Weston Games did a lot of contribution to all of this information that we see and continue to see during the time of the EU expansion. So the cover artist is Lucasfilm, basically. There was no name given to the cover artist, so I just left it at Lucasfilm. The illustrator, David, and the illustrator could have made the cover, but it didn't give recognition of the cover, so I just left it at Lucasfilm. David Nakabayashi is the illustrator, and some of you guys might recognize the name. He has done a lot of illustration for Lucasfilm for the EU. The schematics is Troy Vigil, and it was published about November 1997. And the continuity notes, basically, this is the third book in Del Rey's Essential Guide series. I have all three of them, and I have some updated ones. I still have to finish collecting some of these essential guides as well, because there's updated versions and different titles for them. The book featured an in-depth look at the 100 different devices from works that had been published before and during 1997, ranging from thermal detonators and Wookiee bowcasters to Lobot's cyborg implant and the Empire's top secret cloaking device. And so I thought, you know what, instead of going, because we are coming up on May 19th is Revenge of the Sith anniversary. That's the true anniversary. So it boggles me. Well, no, it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. I was going to say it boggles me to why they decided to do this show, this special showing re-release of the Revenge of the Sith. They did it because Andor and a lot of productions are coming out. It's a money grab for them. If they truly had wanted to celebrate its 20th year anniversary, They probably should have, I would say, but this would be me. I would air it during the time of its anniversary release. That's where real celebration is. But hey, it's Lucasfilm, right? But anyways, going back to the book of the week. So I paused on sharing Revenge of the Sith content. Like there's so many different like source books and stuff out there. I'm not saying there's a lot, but there are so many different like junior novels to the source book, to the art of and stuff like that I can share. So next week, little hint, it's probably be referenced around Revenge of the Sith. All right, so this is so fun to look through. All of these source books, as they grow and as the lore expands and they expand on the source book lore, on the devices, weapons, technology, all of that, species and stuff like that. It's so interesting to read and get further into the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars galaxy, the universe. Let me see here. Yeah, it's a fun one to look at. It's a fun one. What I love about the EU is that the characters were constant on how they were in the movies, unlike TCW and Disney canon, where the characters were nothing like George created them. Yeah, you have a good point there. They keep using May 4th as Star Wars Day. Yeah, it's their thing, and there's a history behind that. And we talked about this on the space theme, and I've talked about this on my channel. But May 4th was a fan. Was made up by the fans a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Anyways, that was a joke, but womp. When Disney bought Lucasfilm, they then started taking or copywriting control of May the 4th. And during that time, they basically went against some fans who used it for their own means. So there's this huge controversy behind that in the beginning. And it's very disheartening. And now fans since then forgot about that and will now say, oh, yeah, that's Star Wars Day, So there you go. It's all about creating these sheeple, with these new fans that they're bringing in. They don't care about what had happened or what Lucasfilm has done to fans before. As long as they get to watch, rinse, and repeat the lore, just consume, they don't give a shit. All right, so there you go. Book of the week, Star Wars, The Essential Guide to Weapons and Technology. So if you don't have this, get this on your shelf. Even if you want the latest one from George Lucas era, I would still say collect them all. Get them all on your shelf. It's worth it. It is worth it. Let me see. I want to put this back here. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and get into Lucas Facts.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
All right, Lucas Facts here, and there's a video that I wanted to share, but I'm not going to share it, but I'll share it on Twitter. I'm not going to share it here, but on Twitter. There you go. Lucas Facts. And this is from The Timeline, The Making of Star Wars. So it's also it's a web-based one that I have saved on my computer. I have bookmarked. And so here we go. This is about the first script, and I forgot to put the date, but this was like September 1973, I believe. But this is the very first script. So George Lucas began writing a script for the Star Wars. The director would spend 8 hours a day laboring over his script, even if it was not a productive day and nothing was written. Lucas would hang a calendar on the wall and mark off specific days that he needed to reach certain writing milestones, attempting to write 5 pages a day. Now you know why he's not really an author or writer. That was never his thing, like whatever. But I'm not bashing that he is exactly a bad writer either. Lucas also began collecting dogfight footage from movies based on World War II. he began editing fragments together to try to get a general idea of how his space battles would work in Star Wars. So basically, it's not based upon, he just used that as ideas on how ships could be maneuvered, how they were piloted basically, and how they fought each other in air. Films used in the process including Tora, and the Dam Busters. So there you go. This draft includes the Jedi Bendu warriors as introduced in the Journal of the Wills, as well as the Sith. Yes, he did name them back then. He just didn't fully give the name until later. The older General Luke Skywalker character took on a smaller role, and more attention was focused on the young Anakin Starkiller. At one point, General Skywalker was thrown off a 1,000-foot cliff into a boiling lake. Skywalker was able to grab a hold of vines to survive. Anakin had a brother named Biggs who was killed by the Sith at the start of the story. Anakin and Biggs' father, Kane Starkiller, kills off the Sith. Luke and Kane led a rebel alliance against the Empire to destroy the Death Star, quote unquote Death Star. It wasn't really named during that time, but that's why it's in quotes. Prince Valorum, a Black Knight of the Sith and a commander of the Empire, is assisted by General Darth Vader. So this is just a glimpse into that. I will share more information on this on my Twitter account, where you can listen to some videos that were comprised from the script as well. So what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think? Those damn busters. I love Anakin in the EU because he's exactly how he was in the movies, unlike TC. Oh, I read that one. Let's see here. The name of Kane lives. General Darth Vader, like the one from the Star Wars. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it's crazy, huh? Like this right here. So when people throw out, and I'm going to go there. When people throw out, well, George would have, retconned the EU post Return of the Jedi because of the treatments, and they point out Maul and Talon and all that. This is evidence here. And this is the script we're talking about. We're not talking about treatment. Treatments are a set of ideas, right? Scripts basically start writing what's going to happen and be said, the events, the lore, the story, all of that, the characters, their motivations, all of that, right? But when they throw that out, you can reference this and say, you know what? Even scripts change. We don't know. And that's not a solid foundation to make the claim that you're making, because even scripts and treatments are not the true focus of what's going to happen later on. And plus, he didn't fucking make them anyways. And they were for Disney as part of the deal to sell Lucasfilm. So there you go. Hey, Richard. OG Star Wars says ships YouTube calm. It says ship YouTube calm down. All right. So there you go. So a little bit of, lore behind George here, Lucas Facts on the very first script for the Star Wars. How interesting is that? Like, what did you guys think about this? Like, just hearing this, was this the first time you guys heard of this first script? So let me know. Share with me. Let me know. We still have some time. I feel like we're coming to an end because I always keep us within 2 hours. But we still have a whole hour to go. So it feels funny starting a half an hour later. It feels weird. So I'm trying to keep this, a comfortable pace. I'm trying not to rush because there's no need to, because we are on time. So I need to slow my roll. I need to relax and just have fun with you guys. So share with me, is this the first time you guys heard of this first script? I go further. George's treatments could be perfectly, and you know what? We probably are on the same track because I provided that type of evidence, but I'm going to finish reading this. George's treatments could be perfectly fitted into the EU with the right adaptations. In the end, they were just vague ideas like the whole Clone Wars events before the prequels. Right. You are right. You are right, sir. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was going to mention that too, Conrado. Han Solo was a green lizard. He was an alien. He wasn't human. He wasn't of the human species. He was of a different species, which was quite fascinating. So again, when people present that to me like, oh, well, George would have retconned the EU with the other. No, that's not set in stone. So don't even use that. That's not even a good piece of evidence that George didn't like the EU and all that. That was just ideas. But when you look at the Maul one, the one with Maul and Talon, so just disregard them in general. All right, just disregard them in general. George, and this is also in the archives, episode 1 through 3. George talks about Leia helping forming the New Republic, her becoming, the chancellor, basically, which at one point she becomes the president, but she is one of the key components of, restoring the Republic, right? And that's what George's idea was anyways about her, right? And he says, oh, well, she's the chosen one. I think that he's going into a different approach on what a chosen one is pertaining to her. Like she's the one to restore the Republic. That's what her chosen one arc is, right? That's all I can say about that. With Luke, yes, he starts the new Jedi Order. And he has him like trying to recruit kids and stuff like that, which I guess he's trying to like just link with the PT during the time, which is fine. But he's still there. He's still, rebuilding the new Jedi or the Jedi Order like he promised, and stuff like that. So all those stories are the same. When you still have the Imperial remnant, so you still have these stormtroopers and these people, these warlords that want to restore the Empire, and now they're fighting against them. Same story that the post Return of the Jedi gave us. So these people who try to use that as, oh, well, George would have retconned everything about that story is different. They haven't read the fucking EU at all. And they haven't even done the research to know that what George set and what a George allowed pertains to his vision, even if he may not write them exactly the way it was written, because no author, no creator is going to do the same exact theme with the foundation that are with ideas that are given to them. There's going to be variances because they're individual people. And so people throw that out. But to me, they haven't read the EU. They haven't got into the creation of the EU behind the scenes, none of that. So again, when you counter people, you provide a solid counter. You do your fucking research, and shills don't do this. And so that's why it's so fucking annoying with quote unquote people on our side who doesn't do the research and just use the same tactics as these Disney shills. It's so fucking frustrating. All right, let's get back to this. George found writing difficult. It's not that he isn't a brilliant man. It is he has so many ideas, and implementing them into a script with a budget is harder than you would think. I agree. If R2D2 actually did speak, what kind of voice would he have? I don't know, Backseater. That is very random. You are right. I don't know. That is very random. I have no idea. Who's trying to call me? You're going to have to go to my voicemail, and I'll get back at you. All right. I thought I had my ringer off on my phone. Green Lizard Han was too powerful to exist. Silver says, first drafts and brainstorming sessions are not canon. That is just extra stuff like blooper reels, correct? Supernatural Encounters developed that the Chosen One prophecy concept and expanded it to the whole Skywalker lineage. I mean, every Skywalker from Anakin to Cade were Chosen Ones equally. I guess I haven't read through it, and so let's see here. Luke failed a dying green man's wishes. And that rough draft is awesome. It equals parts Kurosawa and Flash Gordon. Yes. So, all right. With that being said, here you guys go. These are up on Twitter as we speak because I get them. I get them set. What do you call it? I set them to come out, be published on Twitter at a certain time. So there you go. So you can find them, share them, archive them for yourself, just for future references and stuff. They're all there for you. That's what that's about. So with that being said, you guys, let's get in to our lore talk, our new Jedi Order lore talk. We are still within the confines of Edge of Victory. Haven't made it quite yet to Star by Star. And mind you, Star by Star is the biggest novel written in Star Wars, like under George Lucas, the real Star Wars. It is the biggest novel, and it contains a lot of lore, history, events, circumstances. So once we get to that part of the timeline, again, like this is not doing a book review, but this is going over the events during these times. But once we get to that, like Edge of Victory duology in itself has a lot going on. You have Tahiri being captured and shaped into a Vong, or they attempted to that, and she's fighting that shaping mind manipulation. So we see that, and that's why after New Jedi Order, they call her the Billip and other stuff like that. Then we have, Anakin, rescuing her, and we have the birth of Ben Skywalker. We have Luke Skywalker being exiled as a and being charged by Borsk-Filia, and he's being exiled from Coruscant. And then you have the Jedi, finding shelter to hide from the Peace Brigade. And then you have the inner trappings of the Yuuzhan Vong and how much they are split in certain areas of how to conquer the galaxy and who should be in charge. And there's so many different dynamics that it's like we could do this again next year and still cover something different. That's how well this is put together. And so let me see here. I want to make sure that I'm starting on the right ones, the right area. Because last we left off of Escape from Yavin, aboard the Air Adventure. We didn't talk necessarily about Mara's pregnancy, I don't remember. Shelter we did talk about, and Luke's Great River. So we know, just to recap, we know that Booster Tarek and his errant venture, basically his Star Destroyer, red Star Destroyer, and I'll bring up my clips here pretty soon. I did do, I still have to nerd out and give you guys visuals and stuff, but he is his Star Destroyer is painted red. He's the only civilian in almost the history to have control of a Star Destroyer as a personal ship. Luke going into exile. How original. Yeah, and then so basically he is the flagship for the new Jedi Order. And helps them out significantly. And the ties to Corran Horn and his grandkids being young Jedi Knights or Padawans or what have you. They're Padawans, I believe, at this point, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. So he has a lot invested into because of his own family. And so it's very interesting, like these ties, and you see how the Skywalkers have ties with, the infringement type people, like smugglers and stuff like that. And, you see that with Cade Skywalker too, when he goes and hides away from, the one Sith and stuff like that. And he kind of denounces himself as a Jedi and as a Skywalker and totally changes his persona in a sense, just to be a smuggler and what have you. So we see that they have a lot of ties with and workings and with, like smugglers and stuff like that, which benefits them. My man Booster, yes, Booster Tarek. And let's see. So let me go ahead and pull up the visual. I'm gonna change the screen here and make it. There we go. Awesome. So with that being said, here we go. This is basically the standard here. I have the invasion here, what's going on. That's something I haven't changed in a while because I just think it fits in this topic no matter what. And I have the rebirth invasion portion of the map up because we're still in this timeline area here. And so you can, from last, you can see that a few more worlds have succumbed to the Vong invasion. And again, this is the map I pieced together from the first, the Vector Prime into all the areas that were hit afterwards. So you can see up all the lit up areas, and they're pushing towards the core. They're pushing towards the core. All right. Everybody likes Booster. Yeah, Booster is a pretty cool guy. And just, his bickering and his banter between him and Talon Card is pretty cool, pretty amazing. It's like they have this funny relationship, this love-hate relationship, this love-hate respect relationship. It's so interesting to see and hear, like when you get a chance to sit down and read through these books that has them interacting. So fun. It's so fun. It's like these, and no matter who writes them, it's like almost like they talk with the other author, and they communicate with Lucasfilm to try to, get these characters as, right in their depictions and stuff like that, and how they respond to other people as possible. However, you can tell, the difference between writers with certain characters. You could just feel their flavor of their writing, which some people prefer certain people to write certain characters versus the other. I get that. I'm not saying that it's totally perfect on how these characters are shown through all the authors, but there's still synergy there. There is still synergy there. OG, was the Palpatine in Dark Empire, or was that not Palpatine at all? Just clone with his memories and powers. It was clone. It was clone with it was clones of him with his Force essence, I guess you can say. That's why you like more questions. I don't even think that was the Emperor, kind of deal. JJ made Luke a MacGuffin character, and a his poor answer to fixing the problems of Michael Art. Not wanting Rey to be a sidekick. Very interesting take there. Our theory, our whatever. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. So we have Luke Skywalker's Great River. We know what's going on with that. So we have just a little, like, if you haven't read Edge of Victory yet or whatever, and the Rebirth and stuff, Kip Durrance doesn't, and Kip, it doesn't really have a good standing with Jaina, and he's tricked her so many times, and he's tricked her this instance, and so there's a banter between her and him and whatnot. But Luke is wanting to bring, we're seeing a shift in Luke's attitude now from when the invasion first began to now him changing on how they should respond to the invasion. So he's starting to change his tactics here. And I wouldn't say that's poor writing whatsoever. I think it's a given for him, because you would say it's kind of desperate times, but also to him just questioning how, as Jedi, because he doesn't want his people to turn to the dark side, how they should respond to such a threat. So that he's always doubting himself. He's always questioning for the sake of making sure that his Jedi doesn't turn dark. He doesn't want a galaxy full of Darth Vaders, basically. Let's see here. There is a reason many EU readers have Star by Star as one of their favorites top novels, correct? And man, like I said, it's the biggest novel written in the EU. No matter if you buy it hardcover or not, it is basically I can go grab it, but it's like the biggest, biggest novel written out there. So you know, and this edge of victory leading up to Star by Star, there's a lot going on here. So we'll get into some of this. I think we have one more. We might, after this, we might have one more Thursday of this in Edge of Victory, and then hunker down, you guys, for Star by Star, because that one's probably going to take a little longer or take a while or to get through. There's a lot to get through, but it's so fucking worth it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. All right. Truce unravels. The truce that holds the galaxy together begins to fall apart. So this truce is with the Vong. So just to rehash on that, the Vong with the Priest Brigade put out this truce, quote unquote truce, if they basically give them all the Jedi they can. Once they turn the Jedi over, they have this truce. But you know they're lying. Dun dun dun. But it kind of gives them a chance to pause and to regrow their fleet, because they're still pushing towards Coruscant. So there basically is no truce. They just use as an excuse so that they can start building up towards their invasion even more. So they're betraying the New Republic. They're betraying, and even the Peace Brigade, and the Peace Brigade are fucking stupid. So they're betraying them. They think, oh, well, if we do what the Vong say, they're not going to make us slaves and what have you. That's fucking wrong. They, you know, so these people are in desperate means and trying to think, are not trying to, they think they can coexist with the Vong, and they're like, fuck you. We're not going to coexist with you infidels. All right. So the truce that holds the galaxy together begins to fall apart. The first sign is the return of the alien double agent V'ger. And it doesn't matter what day it is. If I talk about V'ger, there's always going to be someone in here that's going to start debating on this and how the Denning verse has destroyed her. But we're not going to get into that. Although finally back in her native galaxy, Alon's family, our familiar V'ger, decides for reasons of her own to return to the Yuuzhan Vong and consult with War Master Savang La. She has been missing for months, ever since she failed attempt to assassinate the leaders of the Jedi, and the Yuuzhan Vong also believe her dead. For her to return is quite confusing to them, and they immediately suspect a deception. V'ger undergoes interrogation and examination by Har Vinnick, a Yuuzhan Vong inquisitor, and when satisfied of her intentions, they allow the former familiar into the presence of Savang La. Kip was right. I know, right? And I love listening to Matt Wilkins discuss how they portray Kip in the New Jedi Order as some kind of like anti-hero, or, you know, and dark, I guess you could say. And yeah, so it's very interesting. Kip Duran, if you guys haven't seen my Talking EU interview with Matt Wilkins, and I need to bring that series back. I had a couple people that I wanted to bring on. It hasn't happened yet. But I still want to, that series is not going away. It just hasn't been scheduled with an interview yet. But Talking EU basically is bringing someone to talk about their experience with Star Wars, what led them into the EU, even if it's very minimum. I just want to get this person in front of the camera and discuss Star Wars, you know. But when I interviewed Matt Wilkins, of course, his favorite character, EU character, is Kip Duran. And so that's a very great conversation. We did get into a little bit of his depictions in New Jedi Order in that conversation, but not as much as it was when he was on Unadulterated Star Wars with Justin. So check out that interview when you have the chance as well. And I may share that on my Twitter. I think it's a great thing to go back and listen to, especially these especially people like Matt Wilkins, who has led this EU renaissance, I guess you can say, for a very long time. And keeping the EU in front of people is his mission. And I think it's worth a listen. And I would love to do a part 2 with him. All right. Palpatine did return in EU. Okay, first time I can accept it was before the prequels, but returning more than once, Emperor's End is stupid. That the Emperor's End, I think, is just a what if children's story. Though I like how Han kills the Emperor. The Emperor End, is that, or is that part of the the Dark Empire? Now I'm getting names confused. Sorry. Kip deserves more love. He's a cool guy, our beloved anti-hero. Funny, I never look at Kip like that at all. Let's see here. All right, so let's get back. I'm going to take a sip. All right, let's see where I was at. All right, the War Master makes Vergere wait for quite a while. And when he finally deigns to meet with her, he is extremely skeptical that she can offer him anything he does not already have. But the odd creature surprises him. Vergere claims to have information on a certain ship that has been harassing supply shipments, information that she believes only the War Master could appreciate and which he would want otherwise kept secret. On pain of torture or death, should she be wrong, Savang Law asks Vergere to tell him that she knows about this ship. Her answer, in fact, does prove interesting to the War Master because this mystery ship, Princess of Blood, is the very ship that has wanted to capture, he has wanted to capture since the Battle of Duro. That ship that could lead him to Jacen Solo. So now we're getting into the wanting of Jacen Solo. He thinks it's very important to capture Jacen Solo because he is the nephew and son of both major influences of the galaxy. Luke Skywalker, the leader of the Jedi, right? And Leia Organa Solo, who basically is a Jedi, but also a major player in the Republic, as used to being a part of the government, the Senate, all of that. So to them, when you learn more about the Vong, your title, your stature within your society matters. And that even goes with war. Like they will, if you're not worthy to fight them themselves and they feel you're below them, they won't fight. They won't fight you and stuff. They'll send in those who are of similar stature to fight you, but they won't fight you and stuff. So your standing, your title, your standing, your demeanor, everything within your society matters to them on how they are going to associate with you in any kind of matter. Princess of Blood, the coolest privateer spaceship. All right. Let's see here. Mara did not believe it was her old master. Zahn hated Dark Empire. Right. I know there was that back and forth with that. I remember the controversy with all of that. I kind of like her attitude on the duology. Yeah. It's very fun. Very fun. Now, do you guys think, I'm going to throw this out here since we're talking about her. Do you think her and Lando really had a relationship? Because it was hinted upon, and then she denies it, though, in the duology. Do you think that Lando and her had a relationship? He is a suave guy. I'm telling you. All right. All right. I'm going to skip the information about the Princess Blood, but I'm going to go to... Here's what I knew I wanted to. All right. So the second Battle of Serpendel. Like I said, there's a lot to cover in these, and I'm just going through selecting some major points within these timelines. we can do this again and cover so many and other different aspects of it. But that's not what we're going to, I'm not going to go back and repeat this again and again and again. I just want to give you guys, something to talk about. Let's talk about lore. Let's talk about some of these events and how they shaped the galaxy, how the Vong shaped the galaxy, how it shaped the new Jedi Order going forward, and even the Skywalker family. Hey, Diddly Squat, how are you doing? All right, the second battle of Serpendal. So we know Serpendal is what took out Chewie. Rest in peace, Chewie. Rest in peace. But there's a second battle of Serpendal. Serpendal system, a alleged home of the new Yuuzhan Vong super weapon, proves heavily guarded. There we go. This is why I wanted to talk about this. Yuuzhan Vong ships patrol the hyperspace jump points. Wow, there's jumping points. There's hyperspace lanes. No way. Disney Star Wars, that doesn't exist in Disney Star Wars. System plugging them with Dovin Basils. Nevertheless, Admiral Creefey finds an old immobilizer class Imperial interdictor just functional enough to get the Republic's forces close to Serpendal. The interdictor jumps into the system under the last vestige of its own power and with no one aboard, and promptly fires up its 2 functional gravity well projectors. The Yuuzhan Vong ships immediately hit it with everything they have as the starfighters of Rogue Squadron and Kip's Dozens arrive in the system. Kip's Dozen heads to scout the super weapons defenses. Rogue Squadron targets the Yuuzhan Vong ships located around the system's only stable hyperspace entry points, so that Admiral Creefey can bring in Rel Roost and its escorts. Well planned. We have Rogue Squadron. We have we have Kip's Dozen, who is basically, Kip's a Jedi, right? It's not necessarily a Jedi starfighters, but essentially it is. He's taken his own stance on how he's going to fight. That's a little bit of that division within the order. However, we start seeing Luke wanting to bring everybody back together so they can efficiently fight against the Vong. Admiral Creefey, the best Bothan. Yep, exactly. Borsfelia, oh hell no, but he does go down with Coruscant, and he does redeem himself, so we'll get into that soon. Jaina flies with her old squadron mates in Rogue Squadron, those still alive since she had last flown with them. At any rate, the fighting is fast and bloody. The Yuuzhan Vong spring some new tactics on the assault force. They instruct their Dovin Basils to ignore the rapidly initial shots and to focus on the more slowly cycled and then ram Rogue Squadron fighters to take them out of the fighting. Just when it looks as though the Yuuzhan Vong might win, Rel Roost enters real space and pours fire into the enemy. So they study what Luke and even Rogue Squadron had discovered with how to take down these ships. They studied that, the Yuuzhan Vong studied that, and created up with a different tactic to overcome them and surprise them with. Okay. Within minutes, the Yuuzhan Vong ships are decimated, and Rel Roost and her escorts move into attack position on the Yuuzhan Vong superweapon. Accompanied by the combined remains of Rogue Squadron and Kip's Dozen, ship after ship moves into the position to add strength to the assault, and though the superweapon fires back with a few feeble plasma projectors, the attacks easily handle the strain. Finally, something in the gigantic galaxy ship explodes. Where there had been a super weapon, now there's only an inferno. So yes, there was a super weapon being created by the Vong, and reading back when they revisited Serpendal, they discovered how that the remains of that planet were also used to breed some warships and stuff like that. So it's almost like a big nursery, warship fleet nursery place. So little history on that. Jaina Solo does not see the victory. Her X-Wing takes such a pounding that she is crippled, unable to maneuver, drifting towards the sun. So how many of you guys, when you first read this, how many of you guys think that she was going to die? We already know that these writers set up the mood of anybody can die. So how many of you guys thought, like, if you read through this new Jedi Order already and you're reading this for the first time, did you think that she was dead? Did you think that she was gone? I was fucking worried. Drifting towards the sun with her sensors detected along the way fills her with cold dread. A long line of huge Dovan basils reaching from the Serpentine sun to the blazing wreck that had been the so-called super weapon. It wasn't a weapon at all. It was a new warship, a place for the Yuuzhan Vong civilizations to live. So they killed the civilization. They killed the civilian ship. Kip Duran had lied to them. And this is where she got pissed. So I mentioned this earlier. Oh, Silver, you're not that far yet. Oh, sorry. But it's still, I didn't give too much on that. So when you read it, you know, there you go. But Kip Duran, like I said, her relationship with Kip Duran has been a flaky one. So when people finally see that she accepts him to help her out, be her master or whatever, or help her come out from her dark, because she does go dark. People are like, oh, Kip Duran, she's asking Kip. So some people kind of question that, but I get why she did that, because his experience. I was spoiled since I knew she wasn't alive later. So she's pissed off because Kip lied that it was a super weapon. But still, I would say no matter what, in reality, and I guess I'm siding with Kip on this, this is a civilian ship. This is a ship that's going to house the civilization of the Vong for them to travel further and stuff like that. This is a great, yes, Dark Journey. This is a win on their part, because they destroyed their civilian ship, the ship that's going to house, you know, their common people, you know, and all their civilization of food, water, all of that and stuff. So that was also a great, you know, a great attack, I guess you could say, a great taking down of, a great defeat of. When the mission ends with all the pilots safely back aboard Rel Roos, Jaina climbs out of her X-Wing, aimed and amid a tumult of cheers, and slaps Kip Duran. That was funnier than hell. I mean, you guys got to fucking read these books. If you haven't started, get into it, because you're just getting a taste of what's going on, but just reading the experience in it, so good. So good. The rogue Jedi tries to explain his manipulation, that he had decided on his own it was only right that the Vong lose their worlds and have their own refugees to deal with. Yep, their world ship, one of their greatest world ships. Like I said, Serpentine was a nursery for those kind of ships. A Dark Journey, ironic. All right. I have a stupid fly buzzing around my coffee and I don't want it to land in it, and then it just like ruined my coffee. That he had decided on his own it was only right that the Yuuzhan Vong lose their worlds and have their own refugees to deal with. The other pilots proclaimed Kip a hero. Only Jaina, Wedge, and Gavin can see that the rogue Jedi had just dragged them into the same level as the Yuuzhan Vong. So that was kind of weird for me, but when we get further into the story, we'll talk about it. But oh gee, it's 19 books. Ugh, who would want to read 19 books? Stupid ass Wave. Obviously not stupid ass. The next day, Jaina leaves Raw Roost and heads for errant venture. So she goes back and returns to her her uncle and them on errant venture. So the birth of Ben Skywalker. We're gonna go through that, and then we'll get into the Yuuzhan Vong Dissension. So that, again, there's a lot going on, but I think it's very important because this part of the timeline is called rebirth. And rebirth, it can mean a lot of things for this. But, in a sense, Ben is like another bit of hope, like his father was, I guess you can say. And this pregnancy and how Luke helps Mara overcome the cone spores, and how it started, when it started attacking their son and all that stuff. Very good to check out. Since her collapse on Coruscant, Mara Jade Skywalker has become progressively worse. She refuses to take the synthesized medicine that was keeping her alive. She will save her baby, even if it means she will never see his face. Good morning, Nerdmigos. How are you doing? Thank you for dropping in. Hopefully you have a nice hot cup of coffee, CAF on you, and you're doing good. We are going to finish this portion off, and then we're going to get into cringe factor. So with that, I haven't played this one yet. Let me go ahead and do it.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
I love that clip. I love it. Aboard an errant venture, Mara receives the best care available, but it still isn't Coruscant. The Mon Calamari Jedi Sequel stays with Mara day and night, but the only thing that keeps Mara going now is the Force. And she uses that not to heal herself, but to protect her unborn child. Even Luke's strength in the Force cannot help. The most powerful Jedi Master in the galaxy can only stand by and watch his wife die. Wow. And here they say, oh, Luke's overpowered. Mara slips away, sleeping in a death-like near coma for hours on end, awakening just long enough to reassure Luke that she is doing the right thing. Mara's condition could be elevated with induced labor, where the baby brought to term prematurely. She could use a synthesized medicine again without fear. Something in the Force tells Mara that she cannot make a worse choice, and so she carries the baby to term, even though it will kill her. Luke watches in horror as his wife lays dying. He feels feeble touches from her in the Force, little more than light brushes. Finally, she lets him know the time is now. Luke reaches out with the Force and searches for his wife in the feeble form before him, and finds nothing. She still lives, but it is as though she has left her body behind. For the first time in years, Luke feels panic racing through him. Mara is gone. A word from Sequel reminds Luke of the lesson he had always taught his students. Defense is more important than attack. Rather than attacking the disease killing his wife, he should defend their unborn child. And that's where he finds Mara shielding their son from the ravages of the disease. Luke touches his baby boy through the Force, seeing the child's possible future all at once. He pours his strength into them, wife and son, and feels the baby's light tickling. Force touches in his mind. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice speaking to him, seemingly from the past and the future at the same time. All fractures exist in the Force. You do not choose the future so much as it chooses you. Do not look for answers there. Impossibly, it sounds like Ben Kenobi, Luke's first teacher. The critical moments passes. The baby is ready. linked together through the Force. Baby, mother, and father experience birth, a sudden, intense gathering of life itself, all in one place, all at once, pouring its own energies into all three of them. Somehow, impossibly, the wonderfully, and they use the energy to take away Mara's pain forever. Her disease is simply vanished, and Ben Skywalker is welcomed into the war-torn galaxy. I'm back. R.A. Salvatore talked about it because his brother was fighting cancer when he was writing Vector Prime. Yes. Exactly. All right, so the birth of Ben Skywalker, a story within itself, like within that little time frame within the book, to read on their interactions and how torn Luke is, and how he has to trust the Force and trust where he needs to go. And I guess you could say he worked on the will of the Force, like he worked through the will of the Force, I guess you could say, and his son is born. A very interesting read there, and the concept within that. Again, I recommend that. So we're going to finish this portion up and get into cringe factor. So the Yuuzhan Vong Dissension. Despite the terrifying images of the Yuuzhan Vong warriors present in the galaxy and the swift and terrible punishments inflicted upon those who fail their duties, the Yuuzhan Vong are not as united as they would prefer to be. So this is very important going on into the future here, because we have like we have the heretics going on, we have the shame ones that were already introduced, all of this. So there's split factions within the Yuuzhan Vong structure, I guess you could say. The various castes of the Yuuzhan Vong are split into divisive factions. Yuuzhan Vong domains vie with one another for glory, holding grudges from several generations past. And that's a story to get into another time, but it's so interesting to get into the Vong lore, because there is past Vong lore just that was written during this time and used in other areas. Furthermore, the shamed ones resent how they are treated by other castes. Rumors also circulate among the downtrodden lower castes of the sorceress Jedi, of their mystical abilities to manipulate living things, of their miraculous ability to heal themselves and others without Yuuzhan Vong healing organisms, or even their infidel machines. The latter ability is particularly intriguing to the shamed ones, who feel they can get a new lease on life and renew favor with the gods if they could but erase the marks of their shame. Many feel that Jedi could do that. This belief is also tied in with the heretical suspicion of the Jedi might have a closer bond to the Yuuzhan Vong gods than even the Shaper caste. After all, the Jedi can do things that Shapers cannot, that even Supreme Overlord Shimra, who speak directly to the gods, cannot do. More telling still are the rumors throughout the Yuuzhan Vong worldships that the Supreme Overlord no longer receives a word from the gods, that they no longer provide him with the secret knowledge he needs to guide the Yuuzhan Vong to victory. So they're now like losing their confidence in this, and their confidence within their inner structure, and we get to see this. And it goes over time. It still takes a while to develop, but it goes over time. And it goes into even their homeworld, and the seed, or the seed of the homeworld. And we get more history going forward with them. It's like they slowly trickle throughout the 19 books, the Vong lore, how their society's built. Now they're getting into the Dissension, like how they're competing from their different, I'm just going to call it clans and stuff like that. Very interesting. To make matters worse, relationship with the warships are already strained with the destruction of the new world ship at Serpentine by the infidels, the ancient and overcrowded warships are not going to last long enough to move anywhere, everyone to their new homes. Rumors insist that when a new warship is available, only the upper caste will be transplanted to it. Of course, every domain worries that theirs would be just below the cutoff point. Only the most prestigious domains of the most important castes can expect to be chosen to migrate. Each and every Yuuzhan Vong fears that he or she will be left behind to slowly die on a deteriorating warship. But simultaneously knowing that if he or she is left behind, so too will be those lower in station. The social atmosphere is understandably tense. The environment of the unrest has led a few individualistic cast members to forge off in heretical directions. They question what their supreme overlord tells them. They cross caste boundaries to further their situation or merely their understanding. They put their own needs ahead of those of the entire Yuuzhan Vong people. There are such heretics among the membership of every caste, including those closest to the gods, the Shapers. So you have Nimyin, you have a lot of them, and so we're seeing the dissension of the Vong. And you know what? I didn't even move this to this here. So of course you have Mars pregnancy. This is the one of the novel covers. You have Nimyin and Sabong Law here in the image as well. And let me go ahead and move this little thingy here. And make me a great river, a stream to carry the endangered, the wounded, the weary to safety. And so I just thought I'd share that quote again with this, because that's Luke's concern. And so we're seeing the division. We're seeing the stress of war on all sides. And it's very interesting writing. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start getting into our cringe factor. So dun, 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 cringe factor. Here we come. Let me see. What do I want to play here? Let's play this.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And It's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, yeah, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
Jedi is something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM. You know, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis. And so we only have so much resources to do these things with. But I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they had created.
Imagine that. You get Filoni talking his bullshit, to going back and circling around to George Lucas on honoring the EU in its entire concept and stuff like that. And we see Filoni, he's not a person to trust, never has been. He's admitted he's a liar. There's a lot of fallacies behind him and his explanations when it comes to maintaining. I forgot about this.
So uncivilized.
CAF.
Damn it.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
Right, so here we go. This right here, I was like, there's a lot of information and articles and stuff about Andor, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not talking about that shit right now. That at all. Oh, shit. I hate when that happens. Let's see here. There we go. Star Wars is finally making a Return of the Jedi sequel, and it's everything OG fans wanted in the 80s. Okay, so all of you OG fans out there, if you're in the chat, I know their Star Wars venture, the love of Star Wars, but those in here in the chat, whether you're on Twitter or in the actual YouTube chat, on the channel chat, what did you want for a? Because this person, Ambrose Tardive, is saying that Disney Star Wars is finally making Return of the Jedi sequel that is everything OG fans wanted in the 80s. What do you think about that? CAF, yes. Let's see here. Kenner wanted to make a sequel. All right. Bullshit. Right? Bullshit. Yeah. So let's get into this here. Let me go back to the screen. Disney era Star Wars canon. Okay, there you go. Finally, that's the first time I've seen someone from this site write this in such a way. It's finally fleshing out the franchise's post-Return of the Jedi portions of its timeline. And the creation behind Marvel's relaunched Star Wars comic series says that they are treating this like the sequel trilogy fans wanted, but never got all the way back from the 1980s. All right. What book did we just talk about that began like the full spectrum of what the EU should be and how Luke should have been post Return of the Jedi? Heir to the Empire. I'm going to go a little closer to Return of the Jedi. And it's not a trilogy, but it is still a story that happened hours after the Battle of Endor, and that is Truce at Bakura. Now, mind you, they're saying the 80s because if they go towards the 90s when the Thrawn duology or the Thrawn trilogy came out, then they have nothing to stand on because everybody loves the Heir to the Empire, right? Everybody loves that. Let's see here. Courtship of Princess Leia is my sequel trilogy. Sorry, DA. There you go. There you go. In an interview with Popverse, Star Wars #1 writer Alex Segura and artist Phil Noto discussed the highly anticipated new series, not noting that they feel privileged to be the ones tasked with illuminating the adventures of Luke, Leia, and Han in aftermath of Return of the Jedi. And I thought that they wrote already a trilogy for their Disney lore, and that is the Aftermath trilogy. Since it says Aftermath here, I thought they already did their Return of the Jedi trilogy with that, right? So here is the image of the first one here. What do you guys think about the art? It's not bad. Not bad at all. I'm not gonna put down this art. Very classical, I guess you can say. But it's art. In an exciting tidbit about the look of the series, Nato teased that he was inspired to treat this as a direct continuation of more than just the story of the original trilogy film, but also the aesthetic, with the book illustrated as, quote unquote, as if this was produced as a movie in 1986 or so, unquote. So does this give you the feel of a movie that might have been done like under George Lucas in 1986? Okay. Marvel's new Star Wars comic is meant to feel like the Return of the Jedi sequel fans never got. Okay, so here we go. The Disney era of Star Wars is defined by the cinematic sequel trilogy. Well, yeah, and that's big and a failure in itself. That has turned off a lot of people. Produced between 2015 and 2019, which fulfilled the decade-long desire among the franchise fandom for movies set after Return of the Jedi. For a variety of reasons, though, there was not exactly the film fans have been looking for as far back as the 1980s. Again, what were you guys looking for? Essentially, from the moment Return of the Jedi was released in 1983, now Marvel's new Star Wars comic series, and they're comparing the series to movies that were never done, that they think fans wanted in the 1980s, like after 1983. But during that time, George said there was no sequels, that he wasn't going to do any more sequels. And there's a video that says that the novels are the sequels. Think about that. Marvel's new Star Wars comic series will not only chronicle the years following the Battle of Endor, but it will also strive to embody the vibe of the original trilogy. Or more specifically, the late 80s follow-up that never was, as artist Phil Noto puts it. Again, like I stated, and I wish I would have had that clip done where George is talking about there's no more story that he was going to tell, that the novels are the sequels. Growing up as a fan of the original trilogy, I was always hopeful for a trilogy that would take place shortly after Return of the Jedi. And this is Phil Noto's quote. Since that didn't happen, it's been a lot of fun coming up with visuals for a comic version of that era. I have also been trying to make it all look a bit 80s-ish, as if this was produced as a movie in 1986 or so. Nothing too slick or futuristic. What? Nothing too slick? What does that mean? Futuristic, that's what George was all about. You could still have something futuristic but lived in, right? And that's the focal point here. It has to look lived in. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. We got post Return of the Jedi since 83 with the Marvel Comics issues 81 of the 1997 run. Correct. Thank you. I was just going to point that out. If it's not George Lucas, then I'd rather not get this dumb suggestion content from Disney. Okay, Screen Rant. I missed some of you guys in the bottom. I will get to you. It's still Disney. Correct. I assume this is a Disney product. So why are they insulting their own sequel trilogy by treating this like the ones fans wanted? I don't know. Light away from Bakura. DA is a Disney shill. He went to Shillbration despite his hate for Dave Filoni. Make that make sense. Let's see here. Marvel might take Kenner concepts of its sequel trilogy. All right. I'm going to leave this here. And we're going to continue. Especially for older Star Wars fans, along with those fans who appreciate the gritty looks. Okay, so you know what this is? This is trying to bring us old-time fans back into the realm, to the seeds of Star Wars, to their production, their lore. But they don't get it. They don't get us. We don't want Disney Star Wars lore. No matter how much you try to polish a turd, it's always going to be a fucking turd. No matter how much you dress it, could pour gold over it, it's fucking fake. So they're saying, with those fans who appreciate the gritty look of the original trilogy, this should prove to be another reason to be excited about Marvel Star Wars comics entering the post-Return of the Jedi era. Are you guys fucking excited? Because I'm not. The visual style will deliberately evoke the look of the franchise's classic films, which will give it a distinct throwback feel, helping to provide a tangible link to the era it's following up. Remember Comic 108 that continued an EU storyline? That's what was wanted. We don't want this fucking Disney lore, like the reimagining of the lore, like replacing Truce at Bakura with this bullshit. Revisionist history. That's what it is. And this is where they don't get the longtime fans. Star Wars, quote unquote, Star Wars can deliver the lived in, quote unquote, lived in universe fans want with this 80s inspired art. So they're using this lived in stuff because George Lucas wanted to make sure that we understood that Star Wars was lived in. And it was given, like, this lived in appearance also was given in the PT. And also given in the comics and in the novels and stuff like that. So I don't know why. And this is kind of like they're backhanding their own lore by saying that they were wrong and about some of the concepts and stuff like that that they're doing within Star Wars. And so we're going to dangle this lived in narrative so that we can bring back our long-term fans. Isn't that fucking crazy? To think that, you know, long-term fans are that fucking stupid to fall for this? I mean, probably there are some. I'm fucking not, though. What about you guys? What the hell's going on here? What the hell's this? Anyways, let's move on. Star Wars fans have expressed many complaints about the sequel trilogy over the years, but one thing they took issue with was the fact that episode 7 through 9 didn't exactly capture the lived-in feeling of the franchise that characterizes. See, they're using this, they're dangling the lived-in aspect that George has proudly talked about with his creation of Star Wars. They're like, oh, we're going to dingle the lived-in keys in front of you. Maybe you'll come back by seeing it in the comics. Fucking bullshit. I'm not falling for this shit. What about you guys? I'm done reading this. What about you guys? The Nagai Toph War was eons superior than the Resistance First Order Civil War. No. They want member berries in comic form. Exactly. They're dangling the lived-in narrative in front of people to try to bring the longtime fans back. Why? They have their modern audience were not welcomed. Now they're trying to say, look it, ding-a-ling-a-ling. That sounds so fucking funny. Jing-a-ling-a-ling. Whatever. Look it, the lived-in aspect. Come back, please. Marvel might take Kenner. Oh, I already read that one. So what do you guys think about this? Oh my God, this is hilarious. Holy crap. So this is concluding our cringe factor. Holy crap. And I still agree with Wedge. And
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
Oh my gosh. So, how are you guys all doing with all this shit going on with Andor and stuff? Well, with that being said, next Tuesday is the last of the 3 episodes, I believe. So, Thursday, we will go over the development, discovery of, and Operation Skyhook when it comes to the Death Star. So stay tuned for that. We're pausing again one more time with the new Jedi Order to go back into time and discuss the Death Star, blah, 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 and the discovery of it by the New Republic, or not the New Republic. Well, what the hell? The rebels, the forming Rebel Alliance, and going into Operation Skyhook and all the factions of the forming Rebel Alliance that got portions of the schematics of the Death Star, and how brilliant basically the Empire was to split up these these plans, the plans of the Death Star, but still backfired on them in a sense. So we'll get into that lore, and then we'll go back, finish up the Edge of Victory talk of that time frame in New Jedi Order, and prepare for Star by Star. So prepare yourself for Star by Star, because there's a lot gonna happen. A lot's gonna happen. And with that being said, tonight, Casual Rage. So go over to Raging Rhino's channel, set on the reminder, and go. And I think that happens at 7:38. I think it's 8:30 my time now, Pacific Standard Time. So go check it out, set the reminder, and check out the time frame for your area so you can go and hear what Raging Rhino has to say about Andor, because he is doing reviews of that, or he is watching so he can talk about it and basically compare and contrast what he knows of the previous lore versus what's been happening now, and what he knows about the lore in Disney Star Wars and what's going on in that show. So go check it out. And plus other things he's going to talk about. I have no idea. I didn't see his whole list. So go and support Raging. But also, we do have Justin and Mr. Grizzy who are going to have their review of Andor as well. I don't know the time. So Justin, if you're listening, please share the link and the time, or at least the time where you live at, so that people can go and support that as well. You know, it's kind of hard having 2 different channels that you support doing, going live on the same day or same evening, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, on Mr. Grizzly Live. So I say Grizzly Live. I automatically said Grizzly, even though I read it Grizzy. And there you go. So go over there and set the reminders on that and support both channels. And you're going to get different concepts, different opinions and views, which I highly recommend, because not all of us are going to see or spot or the same things. And so it's going to be an interesting conversation, especially if they made it past Mr. Grizzly. I know, especially if they're going to make it past watching this Ambor type show. So go support, go subscribe if you have not. There you go. Yeah, I don't see Soul Assassin in here. Where's my Vato at? But thank you, Star Wars Marvel Pierce, for being here as well. With that being said, we're going to start closing out. If you're catching the replay, thank you for listening all the way through. As always, leave comments in the comment section. Let me know you were here. And thank you again to everybody that subscribed. This channel has taken a little burst of growth within the last 48 hours. And I appreciate you guys so much. You guys are fucking amazing. And if you haven't already, hit the like button. If you're listening and you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't become a member yet, do it. What are you waiting for? With that being said, stay tuned for what the next listen party will be about. I'm looking at the Young Jedi Knights and splitting those up into listenable time frames, so we're not listening for a full 4 hours per book. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys again. And snooze. Yeah, and snooze. So thank you guys again for hanging out with me. 71 beautiful souls. Thank you guys so much. And I shall talk to you later. Stay tuned. I do have some videos that are going to be put up. They're in the edit portion right now. So stay tuned for that. And as always, thank you for listening, and may the Force be with you. Talk to you guys later.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
Another happy landing.